Right now, I would welcome you to introduce yourself in the chat if you want to put your name, pronouns, where you're coming from today, and maybe your major. That would be awesome, just so that we get kind of a sense of like who's in the room, and maybe even something that you're like excited for about campus as well, or something you're excited to see. So go ahead and start filling those out in the chat if you would. Introduce yourself, name, pronouns, where you're from, all that. And we will do the same with our staff. I'm going to have a few of these folks wave as we kind of introduce you to them. So you've met me. Jim is here as well, our Assistant Director of Communications. Jim, you might have to unmute so they can see you at the top.
Hi, folks.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. And Kokanee here.
Hello.
Cece.
Hello.
And Jessica.
Hi, everyone.
And then we also have some really fun student staff with us here as well. So if y'all are here, you're welcome to unmute. I know some of you are, and say hi.
Hi.
Love it. Clarissa McKenna. Ellie's in here somewhere, I think. And you'll get to do some fun small groups and icebreakers with those folks later as well. So they'll get you talking to each other. We promise it won't be all presentations today. So again, kind of what we're doing today, we'll have a welcome and mission introduction. We'll have a university address from the president. We'll do some icebreakers and small group things, and then we'll have some conversations around what it looks like to learn in college and academic advising. And then we'll invite you back to join us for Campus Part 2 on August 22nd. So hopefully you've gotten quite a few emails from us around early move-in for that, and been able to get all that stuff figured out. If you have any questions about that, I'm going to invite you to message either Jim Fawcett or Kokanee Ellingson in the chat if you have specific questions, if you're having issues with the technology, that kind of thing. We do encourage you to keep your cameras on throughout the presentations, especially the parts that are interactive. Icebreakers in a room full of like, dark screens are not all that fun. So whenever you have breakouts and that kind of stuff, we really encourage you to keep your cameras on whenever you can. It's fun to see kind of the backgrounds of where you're at right now too. And feel free to participate as you're able. Do we have Meredith here for?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're here. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Meredith McKay, our Director of University Mission, and I will go ahead and click to the next slide for her.
Sweet. Thanks, Liz. I'll try and give you my best indication of when to switch slides. Hi, everybody. As Liz said, my name is Meredith McKay. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the Director of University Ministry here at Gonzaga. And I'm really glad to be here with all of you kind of as you're starting your time. I actually was a student at Gonzaga. I just realized the last time I said this, it's almost been 10 years since I graduated. I graduated in 2015. I left for a while and then I came back. And a little bit of context actually is that when I started at Gonzaga, I thought that I was going to be a forensic psychologist. My plan was to work for the Behavioral Science Research Unit for the FBI. And then my Gonzaga education made me ask like a lot of critical questions about what I wanted to be contributing to the world and what I was actually called to do, which is how I landed here in front of you today. So I have the opportunity to talk to you just as you're beginning your time. And something that I want to name about that is that you come in with your own background and story, right? Like you come into Gonzaga as a student with a whole bunch of different life experiences and things that led you here. So something that is important to know is that Gonzaga is a Catholic Jesuit university. You may have known that. That may have been a reason why you applied. You may have had no idea and you're just finding that out now. Regardless of what your understanding of that is, being a student at a Jesuit university by design should actually offer you a really different experience than going to a state school or even a private school that isn't Jesuit. So we believe that it should be about more than sitting in a classroom, getting a good job when you leave here. And we also believe that when we're doing our jobs well, and when you're doing your job as a member of our community well, it should be a really transformative experience for you and for us as a learning community. So you might be sitting here this morning thinking like, I don't really care. It's, 9 a.m. or 12 noon, depending on where you're joining us from, like in whatever time of day. I'm tired. Maybe like I feel like I had to be here. I don't really feel like listening to this grown-up talk at me. You also might be more concerned about like, what is it going to look like when I actually get to campus? And am I going to be able to find friends and community? And am I going to succeed in my classes and all of those kinds of things? You also might be thinking like, I went to a Jesuit high school and I don't really want to hear anything more about a Jesuit anything because I've heard enough of that. Or maybe I'm only here because this was the best financial aid package I could get, or because my parents or my community told me that I really should go here. Regardless of what your reasoning is or your story is of how you landed here, I want you to bring that into your experience at Gonzaga. Like that matters. So you're going to see and hear a lot about our mission statement as a school as you get started in your time here as a student. My job for this session technically is to introduce you to that mission, but rather than put our big long mission statement up on a screen and like talk to you about it, I decided to do something different. And try and introduce this in like maybe a more creative way. Now, what I will say is that as you can see on the slide, it says brought to you by Disney Movies. I'm gonna be totally transparent. This is like not for your benefit at all. It's actually totally for mine. Like, I hope that you connect to the Disney movie content. I hope that you understand it and it gives you an access in, but like I, as a true confession, have this regular rotation of Disney movies that I watch when I wake up in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m. because they help put me back to sleep. And when you're up at 2 a.m. and watching Disney movies, like sometimes you think about them in a little deeper way. So we're going to talk about Moana and we're going to talk about Frozen 2. And we're going to talk about the mission of the university. So welcome to my brain a little bit. So you, I'm not going to try and do like a show of hands since we're on Zoom, but think to yourself, have you seen Moana? If you have, that's great. If you haven't, don't worry, I'm going to give you context. Liz, you can shift to our next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, we know that you are a whole person who comes into Gonzaga with a whole bunch of life experience. You might have a sense of who you are, how you'd answer that question of who am I? You might already have a sense of what your values are. You might be really good at naming those. But I think that our most important work in your first year here is, regardless of where you're at with that, whether you've thought about that a lot or not at all, is to start to ask that question for yourself and then start to actually be able to name it both for yourself and for our community. You, as I have mentioned a bunch of times, have a story that has shaped you. You come from a family and a community of origin that has formed who you are up to this point. Whether that family of origin and the community that shaped you in ways that were good or bad or healthy or unhealthy or anywhere in between. In this place, you get the privilege of naming who you are and what your values are. Your values and your story shape how you engage in this place. So it's important to us that you kind of get to name that when you're starting here, because it will help us understand then how we get to engage with you. And then next slide, please. So we're going to look at Moana for our first example. This is a screenshot from really early in the movie when Moana is just a toddler. So if you aren't familiar with the movie, she lives on an island with her family, and she is destined to be the next chief of her village. However, from an early age, Moana finds herself drawn to the ocean, to the water. She has this experience that we get to see early in the movie, where she wanders to the ocean and the ocean engages with her. It kind of parts so she can walk out and she can see some of the things that are under the water. It really draws into her, and then you can see that the ocean actually is drawn to Moana as well. So she, towards the end of this scene, we see this like green stone that turns out to be the heart of Te Fiti, and we'll later find out that that's a key to her calling. So again and again through the early part of the movie, we see Moana's father, the village chief, dragging Moana out of the water and putting her back on land so that she can learn her responsibilities as the future chief of her village. Moana seems to know in her heart who she is because she keeps trying to go back to the water, but it comes into conflict with who she feels like she's supposed to be, according to her family and her village community. There is, however, one person that we see in the movie who sees who Moana really is, and it's her grandmother. So she seeks Moana out in different moments throughout the early movie and tells her to listen to what's inside her. So Moana, what does it have to do with you? Somewhere inside of you, with all of your stories and your experiences, with all of your likes and your dislikes, all of the questions you've asked yourself, or maybe actually chosen not to ask yourself, you do know who you are. You know what you value, and maybe you even have a sense of what you're called to. So at Gonzaga, we want you to start your time here by asking yourself these questions and then starting to name it. So then our next part is, who am I becoming? How are my values evolving? This is the thing that comes after naming who you are right now. This is the part that happens not just in your first year, but kind of as you move through your time at Gonzaga. I can tell you that we are doing this thing wrong. Me, everybody that works here, you probably. If you answer that first set of questions, who am I and what are my values, in the exact same way in a few years when you graduate from here. Maybe they have the same ultimate answer, but likely they'll have some more depth or a different way of going about it to answer them. Or it might be that you shift completely. So as a Jesuit university, a big part of our invitation to you is to choose experiences, whether that's classes you take or extracurriculars that you do, that will help you grow and learn as a whole person. So throughout all of your time here, the invitation is to check in with yourself as you're having all of these experiences with this new set of questions. Who am I becoming? How are my values evolving? So to dig into this a little bit deeper, we're going to turn our attention to a different Disney movie. So Frozen 2, my hot take is that it is better than the first Frozen movie, though I will say I do love the first Frozen movie. So at the beginning of Frozen 2, we encounter Anna, who you see on the screen here, and she seems to think that things are awesome in her life. She doesn't want anything to change. She sings whole songs about like how great everything is and how perfect it is and how it's like as good as it could get right now and like nothing's ever going to change because it's awesome. And then of course, because it's a movie, there has to be a conflict. Everything changes. So here's what I know after a good number of years working with college students, both at Gonzaga and in other places, and also just working with people in general. Change sucks. It's super scary. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. And it's especially hard and scary when you have no idea what the end will look like. And sometimes change in college can feel a lot like that. So that kind of fear can actually make it easy for us to do our best to try and keep things the same and act like everything is like perfect how it is. But the truth is, I think that things get better when you embrace the change rather than try and fight it, because it's going to happen. In a particularly difficult moment of this movie, we see Anna absolutely devastated. She thinks that her sister has died. She's like in a cave and she's like crumpled up on the ground and she is just wrecked. She thinks that she's lost her sister forever and she cannot see a way to go on. But then we see something deep inside of her kind of shift, and she starts to consider what she might actually do next. So, big moment of the movie, she sings a song about doing the next right thing. This is a very Jesuit idea. So, my theory is that somebody that was on the writing staff for this movie had a Jesuit education somewhere, right? Like, do the next right thing. During your time at Gonzaga, we hope that you check in with yourself regularly to notice who you're becoming, how you're changing, how your values are evolving, maybe even shifting. And while it can feel exciting, we know it can also feel scary. But the thing that we ask of you actually is not to like have all of the answers all at once. It's really just to do the next right thing and to figure out what the next right thing to help you grow and to kind of become who you are becoming is. The good news is that you were made for this kind of experience. And even more importantly, actually, like Gonzaga was made for this. The people that work here are made to help you in this kind of exploration and experience. And it's like the best part of our job. This is a community and a place that really wants to help you grow and wants to walk with you along the way, both when it's awesome and when it's scary. So my invitation for you as you kind of go through your next time this morning, and then also once you get onto campus, is to pay special attention throughout all of the orientation process about the ways that you can find support in this place. There are resources everywhere. There are resources that can meet you depending on what your needs, interests, and like things you're trying to explore are. And they're really all there for you. And you don't have to figure it out all at once. You just got to take the next right step. So then we think, then what, right? Like, who am I becoming? And then what? We can switch to the next slide. It feels kind of wild to talk about what you're going to do when you leave this place during your like start of your orientation session. But that really is part of who we are. We're kind of aiming towards this end. The main goal of signing up for any college, let alone a Jesuit university, is to like hopefully probably learn some things and then eventually leave. Hopefully you get a degree, hopefully you leave with new skills and a way to kind of interact with the world. But as a Jesuit university, we also hope you're going to leave us with a better sense of direction about how to use your particular skills and gifts to work for good in the world. So towards the end of your time here, our hope is that you start to ask yourself this different set of questions. We want you to be able to think through who you were when you started, who you've been becoming as you've been here, and then shift your attention to think about who you desire to be once you leave. Along with those questions, we also want you to be able to name your values and identify places that the world is in need and find ways to use your skills to meet the world's needs. That's really like a big part of what a Jesuit university is aiming for with its students. So to help us illustrate that, we have to go back to Moana. And a warning, if you haven't seen Moana, this is like, I'm just going to spoil the whole ending, but worth a watch still, I promise. So somewhere in the middle of the movie, it becomes clear that Moana's village is in trouble. Crops are failing, there are no fish to be caught, and Moana has this bright idea of fishing beyond the reef, but her dad basically is like, no, absolutely not. That's too dangerous. We don't do that. Like, we can't do it. But then Moana's grandmother falls ill, and it becomes very clear that she's on her deathbed. Moana goes to visit her, and her grandmother basically pulls her close and says, like, you gotta go. This is what you're called to, and you can do it. So Moana quickly rushes to pack and leave, and she has this goal of saving her village by restoring the heart of Te Fiti, as we kind of encountered in the beginning of the movie. Much of the rest of the movie details her difficult journey to accomplish this mission. She goes to find the demigod Maui to help restore the heart because Maui is the person that stole it in the first place. And that is why everything is failing. All of the crops are dying. But on their first attempt, once they go encounter Te Kā, they encounter this lava monster, right? Te Kā attacks them and they get like thrown away on a wave. And Moana basically is like, I'm done. Can't do this. It's too hard. It's too scary. I tried. I'm going to go home now. And then her grandmother's spirit comes to her and sings to her about remembering who she is and this call deep inside her. Moana steels herself for a difficult second attempt, and when she does, she realizes something important, which is the moment that we see in this scene. Moana looks at Te Kā, the lava monster, and realizes that actually Te Kā is Te Fiti. But the heart has been stolen from Te Fiti, so she's turned into this lava monster. Moana sees this because she knows who she is and what she's called to do. And it's only Moana who could have seen who Te Kā truly was, and only Moana who could restore the heart of Te Fiti, so to bring Te Kā back to herself, which is Te Fiti. So when she does this, we see the world around her start to heal, and we see Moana return to her village. This is the thing. Moana was called to restore the heart of Te Fiti, but she also was called to lead her village. Her dad couldn't see that both were true and couldn't see them as anything other but than in conflict with themselves, but both were true at the same time. Moana follows her call to lead her village by restoring the heart of Te Fiti and then helping her village community see their true identity and call as well. I can't pretend to tell you what life is going to look like for you after you leave this place. Our work as a university, as a community, is to help you grow while you're here and start to identify what you might be called to, and hopefully equip you with the skills you need to follow that call and work for good in the world. But ultimately, we have to let you go, right? Like, we have to do this work and hopefully form you and help you grow and then send you on your way and trust that we as a collective have done the work that we can to send you. It's hard work. I think it's really worthy work. And we're ultimately just really glad that you are here with us, with all of your individual story, all of the ways you will grow and transform while you're here, and then transform this community along the way. And we're really excited that we get to do this work with you. So you're going to encounter the mission a bunch more times in a lot of different ways, but hopefully this gives you a good way to start off. And I wish you the best for the rest of your orientation experience and can't wait to see what you do in your first year here. So welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meredith. All right. Somehow I paused my screen share and I didn't even know that was possible, but there you have it. All right. So we will, I'm going to actually stop on purpose now. And yeah, give it up for Meredith. You can do the little clappy hands emojis. We know it's not quite as exciting as being in a real room, but yeah, we're very grateful for our folks who have chosen to engage with us in multiple ways. And you'll definitely see Meredith and her staff around this summer. Feel free to drop by their office. Human is right under the stairs in Hemmingson. And so anytime you're walking into the COG to get food, they always have some really great snacks in there. So feel free to drop by and you'll see them around in August. They do a lot of fun stuff. So our next speaker is a native of Los Angeles, California, and ultimately finished high school in the Seattle area where he attended Seattle's Bishop Blanchett High School. Between high school and college, he enlisted and served for 3 years as a food service sergeant in the U.S. Army to earn money for college. A fellow Zag, he graduated from Gonzaga with a BA in psychology in 1989. During his undergraduate years, he served as a resident assistant and resident director, was active in university ministry, worked with faculty on research projects, and was elected Gonzaga's Student Body Association president his senior year. After graduating, he traveled to England to attend Oxford University, where he ultimately received his PhD in experimental psychology. He returned to GU in 1993 and has served in numerous roles at the university before being appointed Gonzaga's president in 2009. Over his 15-year tenure, he has focused on projects intended to improve the student experience. He meets monthly with the GSBA president, periodically with the student advisory committee, and frequently with students to hear about their experience and learn how the university can do more to support them. Many student programs focused on leadership, culture, and support for historically marginalized populations have been developed and expanded during his time at GU. Transformative facilities such as the Stevens Center for Tennis and Golf, the John J. Hemmingson Center, the Woldson Performing Arts Center, the Volcker Center, and John and Joan Boiler Family Center for Integrated Science and Engineering, and the UW GU Health Partnership Medical School building have been designed and constructed. A huge advocate for students, Dr. McCullough is constantly working to find ways of supporting student success at Gonzaga. Please join me in welcoming Gonzaga's president, Dr. Thane McCullough.
Hey, thank you, Liz. Can you all hear me? Good. Excellent. Well, I am coming to you live from my office, which is in College Hall. And we are having a absolutely beautiful day here on campus. And I hope wherever you may be, it's not too hot. We've been having some pretty warm days around the country. So hopefully you're staying cool. Want to just take an opportunity, first of all, to welcome all of you to this virtual orientation and to say how grateful I am for your decision to participate in it. It is really important to us that we do everything possible to introduce you to key people and departments and areas and give you a little bit of a taste of what Gonzaga will be like, pardon me, when you arrive in the fall. And we know that doing that virtually can be a little bit challenging, but we think that it's important to try to do what we can any way we can. And we appreciate that many of our students are working and traveling and even are abroad during the summer. So thank you wherever you're coming in from for joining us. Liz in the introduction towards the end listed a whole bunch of buildings. And I wanted to just share with you that one of the reasons that I think my colleagues in particular like to highlight the facilities that we've been hard at work creating over these last few years is that many of them are actually in response to identified needs that students have shared with me or with us over time. So if you've had an opportunity, which I hope you have, to visit campus at some point or another, you probably saw a number of these buildings, but what may not have been as obvious or evident at the time is that most of them were really informed by students and what students said they wanted. When we have an opportunity to introduce students to buildings like the Hemmingson Center, for example, I always like to share with them that I am paneled a group of people to help with the design of that building, and students were involved from the very beginning. They had a lot to share about things like physical barriers to access and the ways in which we might think about the environment and how this building was constructed. And so my hope is that you see Gonzaga as a place that really tries to do virtually everything, beginning with a conversation with students and really trying to do its best work informed by what they say is important to them. The Belier Center, which is one of the more recent facilities, or the Woldson Performing Arts Center, are great examples of responses to programs that students who participate in them really informed. So for us, it's not only important to let you know that we continue to create places and spaces to improve the campus experience. It's that students are behind most of those projects in one way or another. And there's a project that's coming online this fall. It's a new residence hall that is specifically designed with sophomores in mind, and sophomores were involved with its design. And we're really happy to be returning to a period where we're building contemporary housing for more of our students, because so many of our students who don't even have to live on campus don't have the requirement to live on campus. They want to, because they feel that the facilities are supportive of them, that they are, attentive to things like security and safety. But it's also a great way, obviously, of living in community and getting to know people, which is a big part of why we do ask people to live on campus if they don't have family locally or an older sibling or what have you. And I don't know how many of you are planning on living on campus. You want to give me a show of hands? For those people who have their cameras off, it's really difficult to see your hands, but I see some virtual hands. There may be among you some who are Spokane people, and you may be living at home or for other reason may not be living on campus. But I really want to encourage everybody, regardless of what you're doing in terms of the living arrangement, to consider getting involved in campus activities right from the get-go, because it's a really significant way of getting to know people outside of class and those kinds of things. But undoubtedly, most of you will be living on campus, and hopefully find community in our residence halls is really natural and easy to develop. During this time, my primary goal is to, first of all, welcome you and to thank you for not only making time today, but also for choosing Gonzaga to be the place that you will continue your educational adventure. But it's also to share a little bit from my vantage point of kind of why we do some of the things we do and how we think about this project of college, if you will. And I say that because I am obviously an alum, and as Liz said in the introduction, I started my journey at Gonzaga as a student. And I started that journey a long time ago, but one of the things that Gonzaga tends to do is to have a lot of people who work at the institution who actually were students at the institution. And Many times they leave and they do graduate work and then they come back. Sometimes they just stick around and they continue working at the institution after they graduate. But I truly believe that part of the reason that is a really significant aspect of the university is that people who come to Gonzaga, by and large, find the experience of being a student at Gonzaga very powerful. And they really do find that it is a place that cares about the people who are members of its community and sees them as individuals with enormous talent and gifts and skills. But it's also a place where people, by and large, care a lot about one another and try to help one another to be successful. And if I were to summarize it, in kind of one giant theme, I believe you are coming to a place that is comprised of individuals, both fellow students as well as faculty, staff, and administrators who really want to know you and they want to know what you define for yourself as success. That may change over time. It's okay to start with an idea about what you want to do or where you want to travel in your journey, and to allow the educational experience to change that. That's part of almost the fun of the experience too. We have numerous students who think they want to be a lawyer, for example, and they end up falling in love with a subject that changes completely their trajectory, and they decide they want to do something else. And that is indeed something that I think a lot of students have experienced here at GU. There are many students who are clear that they want to do something and they pursue that and they're very successful as well. So that's completely also part of the experience for many. But we really are here to understand what you define success as, even as that changes, and then to try to do what we can to support you in achieving that. We want every one of our students who comes here to graduate and to go out and do the things that allow them to feel like they're being fulfilled. And I, for my part, as a student, found the experience of working in this environment to be truly transformational. And I want to share with you a little anecdote, because what I found over time is that it's sort of sharing stories of our experience that helps us to grow in our understanding of other people and ourselves, really. But I always like to share with incoming students, especially, that I was a person who was not, by any objective measure, successful in high school. I don't know how many of you really loved high school. I used to look at the world and think there's two groups of people who love high school and people who don't. I think there are far more probably somewhere in the middle who kind of enjoyed it, but over time came to realize that they were outgrowing it. But I was firmly in the camp of people who were not successful in high school. I struggled. I was not a great student. I sort of was a bit of a social misfit. I really struggled with a lot of core subjects. And I share this with parents as well. My struggle resulted at the culmination of my time in high school with a GPA of 1.79, and that included choir. And I was pretty good at choir, so it brought the GPA up, but 179 is not a great GPA to come out of high school with, and it certainly doesn't prime one for eligibility for college. And so at the end of the day, though I really wanted to come to Gonzaga, I actually didn't get in to Gonzaga. I was not admitted. And it became clear at that point that I was going to have to do like some remedial work and try to figure out, how to kind of pull myself together if I was going to go to any college. And so my journey was a little bit interrupted. I actually ended up enlisting in the Army for two reasons. One was it was really important to me to try to do something that made some money. And the other, I only kind of realized through the experience. I really needed structure. One of the things I was lacking in my life in high school was structure. And so the Army is, if it's about nothing else, it's about structure. And I ended up becoming a cook and working in the military active duty for 3 years, and saved a bunch of money, and the Army helped out with educational funding. And so that, together with taking a few core courses along the way from a community college, allowed me to apply to GU and to be admitted as a transfer student. So it wasn't, my point here is that it wasn't necessarily a smooth and easy road. And I would share with you that when I look at all of you and all that you've accomplished and the many achievements that are part of what you represent in not only your transcripts, but also in all the co-curricular activities with which you've been involved, and community service and leadership and music and all the different things that get reflected when you look at your entire class. To me, it's amazing still. I mean, it is just incredible to be with students who come to Gonzaga and have so much talent and have done so much. And although, we're all doing our very best to kind of move past and put the negative aspects of the COVID pandemic into the background, the truth is that COVID affected your education, and you overcame a lot of challenges and have, as a result, a kind of tenacity and resilience that a lot of people they don't. And so I hope you know how proud we are, and how many of us here at Gonzaga just are in awe of what we see in you, and are excited because of the potential that you bring. But one of the things that I will say to you is, this guy who had a 179 coming out of high school, and moving through that experience of the military, even having served and done all that stuff, I came to Gonzaga not very confident in my abilities academically. And what Gonzaga did is it really met me where I was and helped me to understand that I was, in fact, much smarter than I realized, that I actually had skills and capabilities that I didn't even, I had never even thought about, and really found great mentors and people with whom I could connect, and discovered that actually there was a lot that Gonzaga offered that I could take advantage of in terms of kind of rebuilding, or maybe building for the first time, a credible portfolio that I would be able to represent to an employer or to a grad school or what have you. And so I really wanted to be a psychologist, and ultimately decided to study abroad, which I had not been able to do as an undergraduate, by applying to the University of Oxford. And Oxford looked at my portfolio and said, "Whoa, this is great. Sure, let's do this. Let's come over and let's get working on some research." So I want you to know that one of the greatest takeaways from all of that experience was this. Oxford did not look back any further than my academic work at Gonzaga. They had no idea what my high school was like. They had no idea how many struggles I had had. What they cared about was, what did you do when you were an undergraduate? What did you do with your experience? What courses did you take? What co-curricular activities, etc. What can you do to talk with us about who you are at the higher education level? And I want to share this with you just as an observation. This is a really important moment for all of you to recognize that college, and I say that knowing that some of you have taken college credit in high school, but coming to Gonzaga University and beginning your studies here is an absolute fresh start. We calculate your GPA based on the courses that you take here, and you are all beginning, the way I look at it, with a 4.0 GPA. This is an opportunity to say that was then and this is now, and I get to write the story of what college is like for myself, starting with a completely kind of fresh perspective and a new way of kind of imagining what this is about. And I think that's a great, very liberating and freeing kind of thing to realize, because the day you step into those first courses, you know, you're meeting all kinds of people for the first time, and it's all fresh and new. And, you know, as I say, I tend to look at the world through a half full glass. And so I see a perfect 4.0 as the beginning point for each and every one of you. Now, the trick is maintaining that, right? Or at least coming as close as you can to persisting in a way that allows you to be successful academically while you're doing all sorts of other things that are also really important and valuable as a college student. I mean, we like having fun at Gonzaga. There's no question about it. And we have great things that are going on campus all the time, every week, every weekend. We're very intimately connected with the broader community, the arts scene, the sports scene, you know, winter sports, all kinds of different things that students get involved with. We have tons of clubs and organizations and social activities and all kinds of stuff that just brings the campus alive almost 24 hours a day. There's almost too many things actually that people can get sucked into. So I always try to share with people that when I think about trying to express what I think college is really like, I try to draw a distinction between school, which is sort of all the stuff that you've all been involved with for all these years, school, going to school. College is more like a job than it is like school. It's like you've applied for a job and you've been accepted into a job, and that job is to be now a kind of professional student and a professional college student. And that kind of requires more of the discipline that comes with having a job than it does thinking about it as school. I taught psychology at GU for 10 years and got a chance to interact with many students over time and advise them and help them get into grad schools, all those kinds of things. And they taught me a lot during that time too about what are some of the most important things to help college students be successful. And this is one of the ones they kept coming back to, is the quicker students can realize that this life in college is more like a job, and that you have to actually think about how you schedule your time, you know, the whole day, not just going to class and then everything else. That allows people to more quickly make the transition from whatever they've been doing at the secondary and high school level to college. And so I want to share that with you. If you really could imagine it more in terms of, look, this is a job, you're paying a lot of money to have this experience and to have exposure to all of this stuff, you will do well to think about how you want to organize and structure your time. I think you'll find that success academically comes much more easily, because as I say again, we want you to have fun, and we're going to be doing a lot of things to connect you with opportunities for that as well. And we want you to grow in whatever ways and expressions make sense to you at this time. So you want to spend some time like I did, kind of rediscovering what my faith life is about, and being with students from other religions, and sort of getting to know more of their traditions. This is a great place for that, because we really encourage people to kind of learn from one another about their faith backgrounds, or maybe they don't have one at all, and maybe they subscribe to a way of thinking about spirituality that's very different. All of those kinds of things are part of the experience. But getting all that done, and finding balance in all of that, time to sleep and to eat and to exercise and all those kinds of things, is harder than people realize, unless they think about it and try to put some structure to it right from the get-go. And many of our most successful students play hard and they work hard, but they have a lot of structure to their life, because the biggest change of all is the degree or amount of independence that college students have. Nobody's going to be sitting there saying, when are you going to bed, or have you eaten enough, or any of those kinds of things. That's your project to try to manage. And so we're going to try to make it easy for you, but ultimately it's your call. If you decide you need to skip a meal or whatever, that's your call. So the amount of independence and freedom and latitude that you have to kind of manage all of this is, of course, a big part of what everybody looks forward to, but it's also an important thing to recognize has to be kind of managed alongside everything else that you're doing. And the other thing is, it's really important for you to know this. When I became president 15 years ago, I asked the faculty, I said, look, what are the kinds of things you're really worried about? And one of the things they said was, we don't want Gonzaga to grow much more in terms of the size of its undergraduate population. We would like Gonzaga to kind of stay about where it is, somewhere between, say, 4,800 to 5,000 students is an ideal place in our view. And the reason for that is that our faculty and staff really want to get to know you. They really do. They care about their profession. They want to do a good job teaching and supporting you. But the truth of the matter is that in their view, the best way of doing that work is to actually get to know you as individuals. And if you get too big, that gets harder and harder to do. And so we've actually worked pretty hard to keep our community about the size that it is for quite some time. And I hope that you take advantage of that. That's the main thing, that you recognize that every person who works at Gonzaga in one way or another is here focused on your success. They might be working to, make the grounds more beautiful, or to clean our facilities. They might be directly involved with providing support through one of the tutoring or learning centers. They might be your faculty that's working with you in a course or in a lab. They might be, a food service worker. But all the people who work here at Gonzaga, they love our students and they want this to work for you. So in order for it to work most effectively, we want you to get to know everybody, and we don't want you to hold back when you need help. And I say when because everybody at some point or another finds that they need assistance, support. It's not a weakness. In our society, which is so individualistic in so many ways in the United States, people are reinforced for making it work on their own. And you know what? What we found at Gonzaga is it just doesn't work as when we, make it clear that, hey, we've got all this stuff, all these resources, and all these people are here so that they can be available to you. They actually want to find ways of reaching out, connecting, and supporting. So if you're struggling with math like I did, or you're struggling with writing, or you're struggling with chemistry, we have tutors and labs and people who are actually kind of sitting around waiting for people to say, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this. Is there any chance you could help me out? If you need help with, health care, or any of the expressions of our physical and mental and spiritual health, we've got departments and people at the ready and wanting to be here for you. And so just know that from me personally, if there's one wish that I would have for you, is that you are entering a community of people who really are here wanting your success in every expression of that. And I hope you'll reach out and let it be known if there's anything that you need, because that's a really important part of making those connections work. And during orientation, you'll have opportunities to tour and get to know people, and sessions and all these kinds of things as well, both here virtually, but also in the fall. We want to make it obvious to you that we're available to you, and anything that you might need, we're going to try to do our best to try to meet. So hopefully that's a helpful little overview or foundation from my view. Please know that I am myself available to you. Our office here is on the second floor of College Hall. I have a fabulous team of colleagues who are, we don't have an open door because we don't want people running into it, but our door is transparent so that people can see in, and we always want to help people. And I am always so grateful when students come in and are asking if, we can help them with directions, or if they, need a connection to an office or any of that stuff. That's what we're here for too. So don't hold back. Let us know how we can help you. And please know you're entering a community of people that does have a sense of what it is to be successful as college students. And we want to try to do our best to kind of pay it forward and help you achieve all that you imagine, and more, actually, because that would be ideal. So with that, I think I'll wrap it up and maybe turn it back over to Liz to take us on from here. But thank you for listening. And again, let us know if there's anything you need.
Thank you so much, Dr. McCullough, for being here with us today.
Hey, everybody. This is my first time doing this on Zoom, so I can see some of you, but not all of you. But I'm hoping to still get some participation from you. Let me introduce myself. My name's Ann Chisulo. I am the University Core Director, as the slide says. I'm also a professor of English and Women's and Gender Studies at Gonzaga, and I'm starting my 17th year here. Very excited to see you, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the fall as well. I'm just going to talk about two things with you today. Hope to get some interaction from you as well. Liz said that you've been really great about participating with the hand raising function and in chat. And the things we're going to focus on today, hold on one second. It's asking me what language I'm speaking. So there we go. The two things we're going to talk about today are the core curriculum, which you've perhaps heard a little bit about, and then notions of deep learning and growth mindset. So hopefully we'll get some interaction from you on these, and you'll leave knowing a little bit more about what your academic life will look like at Gonzaga. So the first slide I'm going to talk about is this one. This is a slide of me as a freshman at Gonzaga. I went here from 1988 to 1992, and I majored in English and French and minored in political science. And one of the things I like to share with people is that I didn't know what my major was. Do many of you know what your major is? Can you raise your hand if you do know what your major is? Okay, most of you, a lot of you. All right. And if you don't, that's totally okay too. You have plenty of time to figure it out. And one of the ways in which people figure this out is through the core curriculum. I took the core curriculum classes as a first-year student and liked a whole bunch of them. And couldn't figure out what I wanted to major in, and I had narrowed it down to 5 different topics by the time I was a sophomore, and then finally zeroed in on the ones that I liked, and that's where I ended up. So lots of time to decide and lots of opportunities to meet professors from across disciplines who will help you with that as well, as I did too. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so maybe we'll try the hand raise function for this, and if I don't get much of a response, we'll use the chat. But what we started talking about first in the larger groups is the question of the differences between high school and college. And on the very first day of these presentations, someone said the cost, which yes, that is one of the major differences, but I'd like to hear from you about what you either think the differences are or what you've been told the difference between high school and college is. So anyone willing to share out? No one. Thank you, Nick. Go for it.
I've been told it's more like just a lot more studying, like you need to be more prepped for classes.
I think that that's a great response. And a lot of that studying has to be self-motivated, right? Because you're on a different kind of schedule. Thank you, Nick. Next, I think is Sophie. Is that right? Yeah, thanks, Sophie.
A lot of the independence aspect, I'd say, is a huge difference between high school and college.
And that, I think, connects to Nick's point, the notion that you have to be motivated and you have to be disciplined. That's right. Sophia.
Yeah, basically you're gonna have to like take care of yourself in college. Like you're basically on your own. Like you have to do your own grocery shopping. You have to like buy your own stuff. You have to like take care of yourself basically. Whether like when you're in high school, like you basically had to go home, but now you're gonna be far away from home, so that's gonna be like a huge difference.
Sophia, does that seem exciting or nerve-wracking to you?
Well, I mean both. I mean it is exciting trying like basically you get to meet like a lot of new people in college, make new friends, and but it's nervous because like you're leaving home.
Yeah, and learning to do some things on your own. I like to share the story of my first big lesson in college was how to do laundry, which I'd kind of done at home, but my mom basically did that for me. And then I learned that you shouldn't mix colors and whites. And so you learn pretty quickly how to do things on your own and the things that you might need to improve on. Thanks, Sophia. Tessa?
My teachers would always tell me that the classes will be a lot faster paced.
Yes. Yes, that's right. In high school, a lot of classes are taken over the course of a year, so the pace of them is really different. Now you're on semesters, which is I've also taught on quarters, and perhaps some of you have taken classes on quarter system too. Different pace there, but that's a really good point. And that again connects back to Nick's first point about really needing to maintain that independence and be disciplined with the studying. Thank you so much. Okay, let's hear from 2 more. I think it's Araya and Colin.
Yeah, so along with the idea of being self-disciplined, communication with your professors and school faculty is also really important.
Araya, did you read my very last slide somehow?
No.
That's exactly what I'm going to talk about. Thank you. I'm so glad you said that. And it's a thing I'm going to stress throughout this, but particularly at the end of my presentation, to remind you all that we as professors are here because we want to work with you. We've chosen to be at a place like Gonzaga because we enjoy working with students, and that communication is so, so important. So thank you for saying that. And Colin.
I would say one of the big things coming out of high school is the community is a lot more different than it was in high school now in college, and how you form social structures and all that.
Yes. What do you think accounts for that difference?
Just maybe more maturity. The college is a bit stricter on like due dates, assignments, and then sometimes you don't get enough time to be with your friends during college, but sometimes you get a lot of time, and that's when you get into trouble.
That's right. Yes. Again, going back to that notion of balance. Okay. Thank you so much, Colin. I appreciate it. Those are great answers, and they're all really spot on. That a lot of what you're describing is academic for sure, and I'm going to talk about that for the majority of this presentation. But a lot of it is just cultural shifts, right? You're going to be meeting people from all over the country. You're going to have different peer groups. You'll find your interests potentially expand. You'll meet people not only through your classes, but through extracurricular and intramural sports, things like that. So a lot of opportunities at Gonzaga awaiting you. And the academic opportunities are the thing that I'm most excited to talk about, because that's what I care about and why we as professors are here. So those are all really excellent answers. And one of the things I want to discuss with you is how the core curriculum kind of addresses and fulfills some of those differences between high school and college. So Liz, would you mind moving to the next one? Thank you. Okay. So what we talk about in college a lot is this notion of deep learning. And even though, as someone said earlier, your classes are moving at a faster pace, we're asking you to do a kind of learning that might be different from high school. And that learning is broader, right? And asking you to kind of sample a range of disciplines and topics, even though they might not relate to your major. And that's because we are a liberal arts university. So some of you may have chosen Gonzaga for that reason. And Gonzaga is different, say, from a state school in that regard. Liberal arts universities are interested in having you exposed to a wide range of topics, right? That you sample liberally from the disciplines. So this kind of learning is rooted in curiosity and connection. Yeah. We want you to be curious about topics that aren't even related to your major, because in some ways they will connect across your 4 years here. We are committed through our classes and through your opportunities outside of class to helping you become a whole person, right? So we value the educational, but as you already noted, we also value the interpersonal. We have baccalaureate goals that ask us to help cultivate in you habits of mind and spirituality that work in the service of faith and the promotion of justice. And this is a way in which we're Catholic and Jesuit, right? So that faith and justice are central to what we're doing. And we'll see this in parts of the curriculum here that we look at. And then the primary way we pursue this in the classroom is through the core curriculum. Have you heard of the core curriculum yet as part of your orientation, or as maybe part of when you visited campus? Can you raise your hand if you know even the phrase that I'm talking about? A little bit. Okay, so let's take a look at what it is. Liz, next slide, please. Thank you. And then if you have questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. First thing to note is this, that all of you, regardless of your major, you might be like me, an English major, you might be an engineering major, you might be in the School of Nursing, you might be in the School of Business, etc. You all will belong to a different school or college based on your major, but all students at Gonzaga take the core curriculum as part of their undergraduate degree. So it's the thing that you will all have in common with each other. And it's a place where you'll meet people across disciplines and across majors. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. One thing to note is that the core curriculum engages with the mission, which I'm sure you've seen. You will see a lot more, and you'll see it in every classroom at Gonzaga. It's on the wall, so you're probably becoming familiar with it. But I want to draw attention to what I've highlighted here in the blue box, that this is what we promise you as part of your education. Through engagement with knowledge, wisdom, and questions informed by classical and contemporary perspectives, Gonzaga cultivates in its students the capacities and dispositions for reflective and critical thought, lifelong learning, spiritual growth, ethical discernment, creativity, and innovation. This is a lot that we're promising you, and we hope that in the range of classes we have you take, that these things are fulfilled, that these are promises that are fulfilled for you. Okay, next slide. All right, so here is kind of the core of the core. And what you can see is that the core is organized across your 4 years here, and that each year it focuses on a specific question, and that question is answered through a class or a set of classes. And note that as you proceed through the core and your time at Gonzaga, the number of core classes you take decreases. And that's because you're fulfilling those credits and you're also moving into your major. So one, the question that we have you we want to answer is, how do we pursue knowledge and cultivate understanding? In year 2, the question is, who are we and what does it mean to be human? Year 3's question is, what principles characterize a well-lived life? And in year 4, the question is, what is our role in the world? Can we just talk through some of these questions a little bit and think about how the classes might answer them? So let's take a look at year 1. And the question is, how do we pursue knowledge and cultivate understanding? And you can see that there are 6 classes that you take in response to that question. Anyone want to take a guess at how any one of those classes relates to or responds to that question? How we pursue knowledge and cultivate understanding? Yes. Is it Lynn?
Yeah, it's Lynn.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think communication and speech could help us pursue knowledge. I think it's pretty obvious because when we kind of learn how to properly communicate and also retain ideas that other people talk about with us, that's one way we can sort of retain knowledge simply through conversation and whatnot.
That's a great answer. Wonderful. And it also really nicely connects to what someone said earlier about the importance of communication with your professors too. Araya and Craig.
So the concept here that I was focusing on was reasoning. I think it's also kind of self-explanatory, but reasoning classes or a class may help us to cultivate understanding by kind of attaching logic to concepts and helping us to broaden our understanding of certain things and to think more deeply about
Excellent.
things.
That's right. So reasoning and critical thinking are linked, right? And that's going to form the basis of what you do across your classes here at Gonzaga. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Craig, go ahead.
I think writing is good for just cultivating understanding because you need to be able to display what you know, and you can't really do that without some form of writing.
Excellent, Craig. And as an English professor, I would also say that we learn what we know through our writing too, right? That sometimes we arrive at knowledge through that process. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate all three of you contributing. Let's take a look at year 2. The question there is, who are we and what does it mean to be human? And there are 2 classes that you take that address that question. The first is philosophy of human nature, and the second is Christianity and Catholic traditions. And again, this is perhaps self-explanatory, but anyone want to talk a little bit about how one or both of these classes address this question? Who are we and what does it mean to be human? Yes, Emil?
Yeah, I think philosophy of human nature, it's gonna get to like the base of what we are and why we do what we do. So that's gonna answer who we are.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you so much. And Araya.
Right. So Christianity and Catholic traditions can help a person to kind of understand more of their beliefs and their thought processes about certain things and how those play a role in their both personal and professional lives.
That's right. If we think back, thank you so much. If we think back to what I showed you on the last slide with the mission, the notion of the spiritual life is really important and a central part of our mission statement. And this is one way in which the core is addressing that. Thank you to the 2 of you. In year 3, the question is what principles characterize a well-lived life? And those classes are ethics and world or comparative literature. Again, anybody want to chime in here and talk about how these classes might fulfill that? Ethics is self-explanatory to some extent. What about world or comparative literature, which was not a class that was required when I was a student? Actually, there weren't really world or comparative lit classes 30 years ago, and it wasn't part of the core. So that's something we've added to the core that I think is very important. Thank you, Lynn. Go ahead.
My best guess for world or comparative religion is that kind of the more we expose ourselves to different types of lifestyles, and I think especially religious lifestyles, it's kind of one of the easiest ways to see how someone guides themselves in their livelihoods, like by morals or ethics. We can kind of see like, oh, what should we take from there that we can put into our own lives? Like what qualifies, like, is this worth it? Is me doing this sort of, gosh, I've lost my point already, but kind of like seeing how other people live their lives can help us reflect on how we live our lives and see like, have we lived it well, like these other people?
Yes, that's an excellent answer. Thank you so much. Brooke and Sophie?
Yeah, so like the world comparative side of it, I feel like when you get to go out and see and experience other people's culture, just how they live life, and see how much is similar or differences, just really expands your view, and it just helps you to, at least for me, it helps you to be more mindful of like how you go about your life, and you
Yes.
realize that like we're all actually very much connected and the same,
Right,
or
right.
yeah, to respect our differences.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Brooke and Sophie.
Yeah, I think this is kind of on the same theme with what everyone else was saying, but in studying and comparing other religions, it's easy to see what kind of key principles guide
Right.
different ethical systems. And I think that's an important aspect in trying to live a good life is understanding what is generally believed to be a good life.
Yes, wonderful. I really appreciate the way you made connections between the two classes as well. I mean, obviously you can see these year 2 and 3, those two classes, philosophy and religion, we're saying those disciplines form the foundation of the core curriculum at Gonzaga and what we want you to get through a liberal arts Jesuit Catholic education, right? All of the things that you just said, wonderful. You can see the year 4 question, what is our role in the world, is answered, I mean, ideally through your entire education, but there's a single class that you take in your senior year that answers it, and it's called the Core Integration Seminar. And Liz, would you mind going ahead 2 slides? I keep forgetting to change the order of these. Thank you. Okay. Formatting's a little wonky here, but you can still get it. So at Gonzaga, when you're a freshman, you take a class called a first year seminar. And when you're a senior, you take a class called the Core Integration Seminar. And these function as kind of bookends as part of your core curriculum. The first year seminar introduces you to both kind of disciplinary learning in the university. And the Core Integration Seminar asks you to think about your learning across the past 4 years and then look outward. In other words, what will you do with the knowledge you have in the world once you leave Gonzaga? So if you look at the right side of the slide, you can see the range of classes. This is just a sampling of classes that are offered as core integration seminars. And you can see that one of the things that many of them have in common are questions of ethics or policy, right? So what does it mean to like do something in the world? How do we act ethically? How do we create policies that fulfill the mission in some way? So that's one part of the core. The first year seminars, many of you will be enrolled in a first year seminar your first semester. If you get your schedule next month and you don't see one, you don't panic because you can take it your second semester as well. And these again are meant to be introductory courses to the university and to kind of critical thinking and deep learning through a very wide range of topics. So they're taught by people from all disciplines, and you might be in one that's not aligned with your major. You could be in one that I teach. The third bullet down, Freaks, Geeks, and Outsiders, is my first year seminar, where we think about marginalization of people based on bodily difference. And in that class, then we're also thinking about how we live the mission and how we think through different disciplinary lenses. So these form the bookends of the core curriculum. Now, Liz, could we go one back before we get to this video? There we go. So I'll end talking about the core curriculum with this sheet, which you don't need to look at in great detail. I'm just showing it to you because you're going to see it again, most likely with your advisor. And what this sheet does is on the top with the colors, it outlines the classes that we just talked about that answer those core questions. And on the bottom, it shows you the other core classes you have to take as well, which we call broadening classes and designation classes that are meant to introduce you again to a wider range of topics, social sciences, literature, history, and to a set of skills. Writing Enriched is helping to improve your writing. Global Studies asks you to think, again, beyond the local, beyond the national, and social justice is a direct link to our mission. So this is something that you'll see again, and it's a way to keep track of the core. But one of the things you'll note is in terms of the credits, the core is going to take up most of your first year at Gonzaga. And that's on purpose. We want you to kind of be exposed to a really wide range of topics to see what is it that you like, what are you interested in. And even if you stick with the major you've declared, you are learning things that will be important and will connect to that major throughout the course of your time here. Okay. If there are questions about the core, I'm going to hang around in this room afterwards, and you're welcome to put something in the chat or just ask me a question as you're all moving to whatever your next activity is. But I'm going to move to the other topic here and review this very quickly. And that topic is the notion of growth mindset. So Liz, I think we're going 2 forward, right? And we're going to take a look at this video. Do we have volume, Liz? Okay, just watch what he's doing.
Can you hear it?
No, I can't. Can other people?
I'm here for boys, man. Next fucking try. Here it is, next try. I'm sick of fucking just doing this, guys. That's it. I found it. I found it.
Thanks, Liz. We'll go to the next slide. Okay. Can anyone do that? Are there any skateboarders out there? Just, I always ask to see if there's anyone who either can do it or knows how hard that is. Most people in past groups have said it's incredibly hard. We wanted to show you this video to ask you to think about growth mindset, which is something perhaps some of you have already heard of. This slide will tell us a little bit more about it, but if you do know what it is, can you share with the group a definition of it or what it means to operate under a growth mindset? Anyone know? Okay, that's all right. Let's take a look at this slide. So part of the reason really the main reason we're introducing this to you is because this is the kind of mindset we want you to come into Gonzaga with and maintain throughout your time here. And one of the ways in which you'll do that, back one, is through us as your professors. So growth mindset is the belief that you can cultivate and improve your abilities through practice and effort. Fixed mindset's the opposite, that you think I'm not good at a thing and I'm never going to be good at a thing, etc. So you can see in the chart on the left what growth mindset, that set of beliefs that accompany it versus fixed mindset. Okay, and the main thing is the notion of learning from your mistakes and improving with practice. The image on the far right, which is really tiny, is still something I think valuable to show. It's an image of a paper that I wrote when I was a student here, and all of the red ink is a critique of my writing by a political science professor who still teaches here. His name's Blaine Garvin. And Dr. Garvin would hand back papers like this, and then he would allow us to rewrite them. And so this paper, you probably can't see it very well, but every comment on this page is a critique in some way, telling me I'm wordy or I'm unclear or get to the point, so on and so forth. And then he let me rewrite it, and I wrote it and I got a better grade. And then he had me rewrite it one more time, got a better grade. And what I can say is that as an English professor, the person who helped me the most with my writing was this political science professor. I really attribute the strength of my writing to the kind of encouragement and opportunities that he gave me through the notion of growth mindset. Okay, Liz, let's go ahead and move one more. So we want you to enter Gonzaga with that. We want you to know that we're here to help cultivate that, and that you're going to do that again through your core classes. These 4 points I'll just go over really quickly because I know I'm almost out of time. That we're hoping that through the core curriculum and at your time at Gonzaga, you'll learn about a variety of disciplines and different ways of thinking. That's really important in problem solving, and that you'll make connections between your classes. But in those classes, you'll see opportunities for growth, that you might not do well in some of them at first, but that we're here to help you do better if you want to. And that the relationship that you have with your professors is really the central part of your educational journey, which connects back to, I can't now remember who said at the start, the importance of communicating with professors, but whoever said that gets a gold star. Because let's go to this last slide. Note that what I say on it is the second bullet point. The key to building relationships with your professors is good communication. Come to our office hours, email us, talk to us after class. We're here to help you We chose to be at Gonzaga because we love working with students and we want to build those relationships with you through the core curriculum, through developing growth mindset and helping you become that whole person that Gonzaga promises. So, Liz, I think I did it. I think there's 1 minute left. Might be a good transition into the next session.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anne, for all of that fantastic information, starting us off talking about what it means to learn in college. We are really excited to have you all back and on campus with us for session 6, part 2, which will be on campus on August 22nd. So that's the day before normal move-in. As referenced earlier, and as you've received in some emails, you'll have the opportunity to move in a day early, which is awesome. So this is a little bit of the schedule for that. You'll continue to get that in your email as well. But lots more opportunities for y'all to interact in some fun ways, to get to meet with a small group, get some campus tours, engage with a few different offices during your time. And then we'll have some fun social opportunities as well. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. Again, please do message us if you have any questions about that, or email us at nsfp at gonzaga.edu. We're happy to reply to any questions you might have around that. A few things until then, before we send you off. Please remember to check your ZAG mail regularly. You'll continue to get some really important information announcements through those. My GU is available as well, so feel free to explore that. You'll find lots of resources on there. Complete your academic interest survey and your health portal vaccine uploads or exemptions. If you haven't done those yet, those are really helpful to be able to move in more quickly on move-in day, and will speed up your time in line. So if you can upload your vaccines or exemptions and complete that academic interest survey, please do those. Complete your ZAG into Action Canvas course. Feel free to email us if you're having any trouble getting access to that. And then complete Diversity EDU as well. As is referenced in the chat, Clarissa and Jim have put, there is a webinar tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So in just about 6 hours from when you'll be hopping off this Zoom, you're welcome to get on another if you want, and that's with our campus safety and security. So if you are interested in learning more about what that looks like on campus, please feel free to hop on there. It's a great opportunity to see what's going on. And then Clarissa's also said, if you want to follow us on ZAG First Year on Instagram, you can see the schedule for the rest of the student webinars, and you're getting emails and stuff about those as well. 2 other things to do. You can upload your ZAG card photo before you come, and then feel free to scan this move in to bring list. It helps you know what to bring, what not to bring. Those are also available on our housing website at Gonzaga, so feel free to check out that as well. And then please do remember, if you're coming for the second part on August 22nd, that is an early arrival technically. You don't have to pay for that, but you do have to submit your early arrival form, and those are due this month, so before August 1st. So try to do that today if you haven't done that already, and contact housing@gonzaga.edu if you have any questions or concerns about that as well. So feel free to let us know if you have any questions on those parts. But overall, we've had such a great time interacting with you all today. We have one final piece where we'll be sending you on your way. CC Torve Williams, if you want to unmute and wave for a second, she will be creating breakout rooms for us. And so if you have any questions over the next hour, if you get booted from your breakout room, you need to get back into one to chat with someone, etc., please private message her, or you can put it in the main chat. She'll be monitoring that as well to make sure that you get back into the room that you need to. So I'll let her unmute for a second just so you can see her name, or drop that in the chat so you know who she is as well.
Yes, hello.
Awesome. All righty. And with that, I'm going to unshare and say we will see you in August. Please enjoy your time with our fabulous academic advisors. They're really excited to get to chat with you all a little bit. We have Victoria, Mackenzie, Kendall, and Emma here with us today. So you will see one of them in your rooms shortly. And they have all kinds of great info to prepare you to come to campus and understand your schedule and what your next few years will look like.